Coming up,
we have something very, very powerful.
They're the leaders of tomorrow.
That's representation at its finest. That's what our democracy is designed to do.
And they're making their voices heard today.
And this generation is just uniquely positioned to actually do that.
And from the author of the bestseller, The Harbinger, learn the secrets of the Bible that will change your life. Jonathan Cahn opens up the Book of Mysteries on today's 700 Club.
Well, they ought to call Donald Trump the Phoenix. He rose from the dead last night, came back swinging, and put Hillary Clinton on the defensive. The second presidential debate was far different from the first one. This time, Donald Trump seemed much more prepared. Hillary Clinton was on the defensive much of the night, and if you had to say who won, Trump was the clear winner. Terry?
Well, the town hall debate was extremely tough, with both candidates taking very hard shots at one another. David Brody brings us the story from St. Louis.
The tone was set early on when Clinton and Trump wouldn't even shake hands. It also didn't take long for the much talked about video of Trump's lewd comments to come up.
This was locker room talk. I'm not proud of it. I apologize to my family. I apologize to the American people.
He has said that the video doesn't represent who he is, but I think it's clear to anyone who heard it that it represents exactly who he is.
From that point, though, Trump went on the offensive, bringing up her husband's past immoral conduct.
And there's never been anybody in the history of politics in this nation that's been so abusive to women. So you can say any way you want to say it, but Bill Clinton was abusive to women. Hillary Clinton attacked those same women and attacked them viciously.
Just before the debate, Trump held a press conference with 4 women who say Bill Clinton abused them. He also invited them to the debate. But Trump wasn't done, moving on to other subjects like those infamous deleted emails.
If I win, I am going to instruct my Attorney General to get a special prosecutor to look into your situation, because there has never been so many lies, so much deception.
It's just awfully good that someone with the temperament of Donald Trump is not in charge of the law in our country.
Yeah, because you'd be in jail.
Secretary Clinton.
Clinton played defense on new email leaks revealing that during those paid Wall Street speeches, she talked of needing both a public and private position on certain issues, leaving her open to being two-faced.
As I recall, that was something I said about Abraham Lincoln after having seen the wonderful Steven Spielberg movie called Lincoln.
Now she's blaming the lie on the late, great Abraham Lincoln. That's one that I haven't. Okay, Honest Abe never lied. That's the good thing. That's the big difference between Abraham Lincoln and you.
Along with the zingers, Trump had some missteps, like admitting he hasn't paid individual federal income taxes for years.
Did you use that $916 million loss to avoid paying personal federal income taxes for years?
Of course I do. Of course I do. And so do all of her donors, or most of her donors.
He also admitted he and running mate Mike Pence don't see eye to eye on foreign policy in Syria.
He and I haven't spoken, and I disagree.
Clinton didn't make any major mistakes. Instead, this debate came down mostly to insults.
Secretary Clinton, does Mr. Trump have the discipline to be a good leader?
No.
I'm shocked to hear that.
Well, it's not only my opinion, it's the opinion of many others. National security experts, Republicans, former Republican members of Congress.
Meanwhile, Trump got personal when talking about Clinton's recent comments that half of his supporters were a basket of deplorables.
She has tremendous hate in her heart. And when she said deplorables, she meant it. And when she said irredeemable, they're irredeemable. You didn't mention that. But when she said they're irredeemable, to me, that might have been even worse.
The only thing worse may have been a presidential debate that hit a new low in American history.
Well, interesting, ladies and gentlemen, what happened, but nevertheless, Trump was the winner. Basically, the pundits were writing him off. I mean, let's face it, a guy does something 11 years ago there's a conversation in Hollywood where he's trying to look like he's macho. And 11 years after that, they surface it from the Washington Post or whatever, bring it out within 30 days or so of the election. And this is supposed to be the death blow, and everybody writes him off. Okay, he's dead. Now you better get out of the way and let Mike Pence run the campaign. And the Donald says no. But as I say, he's like the Phoenix. They think he's dead. He's come back. And he came back strong. So he won that debate. The next one, we'll see what happens. But in the meantime, he speaks to adoring thousands wherever he goes. And David Brody is with us now from St. Louis. And David, you talked to the Trump team. Did they say anything about the preparation for this last debate?
They did, Pat. As a matter of fact, talking to some campaign sources this morning, saying that they believe what Donald Trump turned in last night was a textbook performance, and that's a quote. And they also say that he prepared much harder this time. That was the word they used, harder this time. And clearly it paid off. I mean, I don't think there's any question that Donald Trump did very well in that debate. You know, one of the things I noticed, Pat, is that if you notice in Hempstead, New York, in that first debate, 20 minutes, 25 minutes, he was just fine, pretty much focused, and then I don't know, lost interest, couldn't keep it going, couldn't keep the momentum going. Last night, a whole different story. 90 minutes, start to finish, laser focused on Hillary Clinton. And, you know, one of those campaign sources telling me this morning that they came prepared for combat and not a conversation, because they acknowledged that the last debate, Hillary Clinton did well because she was in a combative mood. This time, they said Donald Trump was going to come ready to fight.
What is your take? It looks like she was kind of passive on this thing, because actually the moderators were asking questions, and the audience was asking questions that aimed at her that were pretty tough.
Well, and we saw Donald Trump go after the moderators quite a bit during the debate, even at one point saying, hey, it's 1 on 3 out here, which I thought was a pretty interesting line and got a kind of a chuckle from the audience. Look, I think one of the big concerns that Hillary Clinton's going to have going forward is this idea that she's mailing it in and letting Trump be Trump. And, you know, there's a lot of folks in the Hillary Clinton campaign that want to just stand by the wayside, if you will, and just watch Donald Trump implode. The problem with that is that you can turn in what happened last night by Hillary Clinton, which is a pedestrian performance. She pretty much let Trump have his way for the most part, didn't really push back as hard as many of her supporters wanted to, and that's what happens when you get complacent. So if she's going to continue that for the next 30 days, we may be in for a much, much different race, and those polls will most likely tighten quite a bit, because my understanding through some sources close to the Trump campaign is that this is going to be scorched earth for the next 30 days. It will be combat, Pat. I don't think there's any question about it.
David, you know, I head up a university, and we try to teach people the fine points of logic and reasoning. It doesn't look like there's much logic and reasoning. For example, there were questions asked to Donald Trump, and everybody said, okay, he won. But they asked him about taxes. He didn't really hit it very hard. They asked him about the Affordable Care Act, and he could have knocked out of the park, and he didn't do it. They asked about the emails, and he talked about all of them, but there was nothing in depth. At least that was my feeling. Did you have that feeling or not?
I really did. I actually, the same thoughts were going through my mind as well. And look, as the campaign will say, they didn't necessarily come. They wanted to lay out the vision. And if you notice at the beginning, he being Donald Trump, talked about making America great again. He didn't say that in the first debate until 90 minutes in. He said it 3 times in the first 10 minutes or so of that debate. So he was more focused on the overall message. But right, when it came to substance, you know, I thought the Obamacare or the Affordable Health Care Act and what he was going to do to replace it, I mean, it was a lot of mumbo jumbo. He didn't really quite have it all down. He talked about state lines, and, you know, but it's something he's been saying for a while, but no real meat on the bone there. And I think that was an issue. And he had a couple other missteps as well, obviously talking about how he disagrees with his vice presidential running mate, Mike Pence, on policy in Syria. Though I will say that is authentically Donald Trump. You'll never hear a politician say, hey, you know what, I disagree with my running mate. That's a polished politician will never say that. Donald Trump, not a polished politician. He'll say just about anything, as we're learning, Pat.
You know, if he wanted to set up the Senate, though, there wasn't one single Republican who voted for the Affordable Care Act, not one. And the thing is a disaster. The premiums are going up through the roof. The deductibles are going up double. People are terribly upset. People are, the insurance companies are exiting the program by the hundreds. It is a complete meltdown and will be collapsed in about another 6 or 8 months. But why didn't he bring that out? It looks like to me, I mean, he wanted to help his buddies in the Senate. That would be one way to do it.
Yeah, I think for the most part, look, Donald Trump is not going to win this debate or, quite frankly, the presidency talking about going 2, 3, 4 paragraphs deep into substance. You know, he's always talked about leverage. He's always talked about this idea that he wanted to make sure that, you know, he has not just maximum leverage, but the willingness to negotiate a lot of this. And so the reality is that for people that are going to vote for Donald Trump, they're going to have to take a leap of faith, and it is a leap of faith to know that he'll have the right advisors around him that know policy. Remember, we talked to David Barton, CEO of Wall Builders, a conservative Christian leader who said Donald Trump is going to run a CEO model type of government. He's not going to run your typical government as we've seen presidents do in the past. He's a CEO who delegates public policy positions, if you will, this time, to certain folks around him. And then he says, okay, boys, go do your, and ladies, go do your job.
All right, what is the plan of attack for the next 30 days?
Combat, combat, combat. I think they realize that they're in an all-out fight, and they've got to do something. And look, it is far past time. You know, the train left the station a long time ago with Donald Trump trying to appeal to the squishy middle here in America. You know, the folks that, you know, want to see a more presidential, a more temperate, a more calm Donald Trump. Look, he is who he is. And he is Donald Trump, and he is a brash street brawler from New York. We saw it last night. That's not going to change in 30 days. And get ready for Las Vegas in 10 days, because boy, oh boy, what happens in Vegas sure is not going to stay in Vegas. It's going to be all around the world, Pat.
All right, David, we're going to look forward to your reports. Thank you so much. Well, in other news, folks, Hurricane Matthew has died down and moved out to sea, but has left behind, certainly in our area, flooded area, streets, power outages, serious damage, and a death toll of nearly 20 in the United States, and maybe as many as 500 in that beleaguered nation of Haiti. John Jessup reports from Florida on the most powerful storm to hit the Atlantic region in years.
Vanessa Gwen wanted to be in church Sunday, eager to give thanks that she and her family survived the storm. The back of their home is mostly glass, and while downed trees and scattered debris surrounded them, the Gwens found their home intact. The only casualty, blinds on the back porch.
Like I was telling my son, he was like, Mom, we don't have power. And I said, but you know, there's people who don't have a house. He says, Mom, we don't have internet. But there's people who don't have shelter. So, you know, you cannot be selfish.
Friends Deborah and Talitha Portee found a toppled tree on their roof. What goes through your mind knowing that, first of all, the storm could have been worse,
that's right,
and then secondly, the damage to your home could have been more than what it is?
Well, it lets us know that regardless, God is in control. I know without a shadow of a doubt it was only God.
Others weren't as fortunate. Matthew washed ashore at a strong Category 4, downing power lines, uprooting trees, and ripping off roofs. Majid Cahn spent a day cleaning up the aluminum canopy from his convenience store.
It was blown over. It was all over the road. Other than that, we are very thankful to God, and we made it okay.
Also thankful, residents who stayed at a school shelter in Flagler County.
This one here was supposed to be very bad, but praise the Lord, it wasn't.
The Floridians we met all acknowledged for the most part they dodged a bullet. Still, stretches of the Florida coast sustained significant damage, like Highway A1A. This scenic road, parts of it caved in, other parts were washed away by ocean water. Officials estimate the damages here could be one of the costliest storms in U.S. history.
Floodwaters besieged communities in Georgia and South Carolina. And in North Carolina, Matthew's storm surge triggered historic flooding that proved deadly.
Water can kill, and that's exactly what has happened, sadly, in North Carolina, and we still have those dangers ahead of us.
Thousands had to be rescued, more than 600 in Fayetteville alone. Just look at this video of a dramatic rescue of a mother and her toddler who clung to a car as rising water closed in.
Hold on, ma'am. He's going to come out.
In Virginia, hundreds of thousands lost power, and the governor called in the National Guard to assist with flooding. The worst devastation undoubtedly came in Haiti, where estimates of the death toll are around 1,000 and counting, and now growing concerns of a cholera outbreak. CBN's Operation Blessing is on the ground handing out chlorine, needed to provide safe drinking water and to prevent waterborne diseases like cholera. OB also has teams on the ground in Fayetteville, North Carolina.
Amen.
Pastor Derek Jackson, without electricity at his own home, helped serve others who rode out the storm in area shelters. He says events like these can open the door to share the gospel.
First, show them the love of Jesus Christ, and then be able to communicate in words the gospel message.
A simple act that goes a long way in times like these. John Jessup, CBN News, Volusia County, Florida.
Thanks, John. We don't have the full scope, and I was wrong when I spoke earlier. I thought the last figure I had was 500 in Haiti, and our report showed it's up to 1,000. That's devastating. I mean, the most poverty-stricken area in the entire Western Hemisphere to get hit like this. And Operation Blessing is there in Haiti, especially with chlorine, because the thing that they're so afraid about is a second wave, which would be cholera, as the sewage overflows and pollutes the streams and all the water, this deadly cholera that was brought in by the United Nations. So we have something that can fight that, chlorine, and we are making thousands and thousands of gallons of it. But in addition to that, we have medicine, and we have blankets, and we have shelter, and we have food, and we're doing the same thing in Fayetteville and other areas. If you want to help, it's Operation Blessing, or CBN.com, whichever makes you happy. CBN Center, Virginia Beach, Virginia. Our telephone number is easy to remember. It's 1-800-700-7000. Terry.
Well, up next, the new wave of young Americans involved in politics.
We have something very, very powerful. We have the largest generation on this planet. 80 million right here in America, 1 billion on the planet. And we are one of the most untapped sleeping giants.
See how millennials are using social media and other digital tools to make their voices heard in government.
Well, have you heard about the so-called youth vote? It isn't known for actually making it to the polls to vote. Is that because of complacency? Or could it be millennials don't feel there's anyone running for office who looks like them, sounds like them, or thinks like them? Who knows what they're thinking? Caitlin Burke went to find out. Here's her report.
Young Americans will eventually pay for the decisions made by today's leaders. That reality is serving as a wake-up call for this voting bloc to change course and get involved in the political process.
We have something very, very powerful. We have the largest generation on this planet. 80 million right here in America, 1 billion on the planet. And we are one of the most untapped sleeping giants.
Action for America, a political advocacy group, wants to reinvigorate government by identifying young leaders.
What if we could turn this broken system, if we can change the players, change the leaders, and change the people that support them? That is a solution to politics. That's how we fix it. And this generation is just uniquely positioned to actually do that.
To encourage them to make that leap and run for office, Action for America has launched Awaken 100.
It's time that we say, you know what, maybe we represent ourselves. What if we found someone that really inspired us, that looked like us, that sounded like us, that thought like us, and we actually supported that person? That's representation at its finest. That's what our democracy is designed to do.
The concept of millennials getting involved in politics is one that's spreading quickly across the country. Here in Anchorage, Alaska, an economic crisis has caused the upcoming generation to get involved and help reshape the state's future.
We had sort of an interesting situation where the people making a lot of the decisions, or that should be making those decisions, aren't going to be the ones most impacted by them. And this is something that really is going to affect people most of our generation.
Meet Drew, Ian, and Penny, members of a new volunteer group called Our Alaska. They use social media and other digital tools to teach their generation about balancing the state's budget, creating jobs, and working towards a better financial future.
It is the last thing that anybody wants to talk about. That's the key challenge that everybody's had, and it's what really informed our
approach to try and do something that was funny and edgy and a little more attention grabbing than your conventional campaign.
Oh my! Oh, everything is not glorious. This economy is terrible. Oh no! Recession!
One benefit of running social media campaigns on platforms like Facebook and Twitter is that you can see in real time how your campaign is doing compared to others.
We watched how our campaign would progress against several other campaigns that were being led by nonprofits, business organizations, which had literally hundreds of times the amount of money we had. And in the social media realm, in terms of engagement, we crushed them all.
We've seen a really positive response from elected officials as well. The governor has met with our group several times. Folks in his administration, representatives and senators are interested in being involved and hearing what we have to say. Maybe they're intimidated. Maybe they think they should talk to us because otherwise we're going to run for their seats.
Jason Gren, an Our Alaska member, is doing just that. At 35 years old, he's running for state house against a much older incumbent.
I think young people right now, we have some experience, we have a different background or mindset, and we have a different vision for the future than maybe someone who is in the retirement age, or maybe might move out of Alaska because it's not as an ideal place anymore for them and their lifestyle. But for me, it's I have a family, I have kids. I speak for that voice. I speak for the next 2 years, 5 years, 10 years.
We spent a few hours with Gren, who's combining traditional boots-on-the-ground campaigning with a targeted social media strategy. For example, more than 8,000 people viewed a quick Facebook Live video we did with Gren before he started knocking on doors.
And this is definitely the not-so-glamorous side of campaigning, right?
This is the hard work. This is the time of day. You're done with work, you're hungry, you're tired, you want to be home with your kids, you're resting, doing something, and you have to go walk for 2 hours and talk to people at their house, and hopefully they're nice, and hopefully they open the door and want to have a good conversation with you.
Knocking on doors helps Gren meet constituents, while social media allows them to follow along with his campaign.
You can kind of, update what you're doing, on a day-to-day basis. You kind of give people that personal insight to what you're doing, but also your views on certain topics. So I can talk to, moms I meet and dads I meet and neighbors, anyone on the street. I can tell them to, go to my Facebook page and you can see what I did yesterday and today.
There are plenty of excuses not to get involved with the political process. Busy lives, budding careers, and balancing work with family. Still, Gren and those involved with Our Alaska say they refuse to continue to go unrepresented and unheard. It's that spirit that Action for America hopes to capture and spread in order to change the future.
Sometimes we say we need to wait our turn in line. And then the time for waiting is actually over. It's going to take, again, some real courage and some real bold folks to be the first ones on that line. And of course, you may lose, you may go through the ring of fire, you may get beat up a little bit, but that's what this revolution is going to take. And I think to have the support of millions of people behind you is going to take bold leaders to begin with. And that's what we're looking for.
Caitlin Burke, CBN News, Anchorage, Alaska.
Marvelous report. Folks, we're privileged at Regent University to have as one of our adjunct professors a former Attorney General of the United States, former Governor, former State Attorney General, John Ashcroft. And he was with me a couple of days ago. He's teaching classes. He just signed up for another couple of years. We're so thrilled that a man of that stature is teaching young people. And he mentioned the fact that in the Constitution, there are barriers, one after the other, against so-called pure democracy. It's very interesting. So they talk about democracy, but say, what about freedom? The important thing is freedom. So you can have democracy and go ahead and kill Jews and kill Arabs or kill whoever. But freedom is what their important thing is. And, the framers of our Constitution were very concerned about mob rule because they knew that once the electorate, majority of the electorate, realized that they could vote themselves goodies from the federal treasury, then your country is gone. And that's what we're dealing with now. There's so many people, probably 50, 60% of the people of America are getting something from the federal government. And they want that, and they want more, and they don't want to give up what they've got. They want to get more. And that's the thing that can destroy the democratic process. And so we have checks and balances up and down the line in our Constitution to make sure that we are spared from mob rule. And so these millennials, God bless them, I'm glad they're getting into the process, but I do hope that they get instructed. Because I had another congressman a few days before that, chairman of a committee, talking about his favorite verse of a chapter in the Bible, or book of the Bible, was Jude, which is earnestly contend for the faith as once delivered to the saints. And he says the people coming up need to be instructed in the things that they're contending for. What is the meaning of democracy? What is the meaning of our republic? What is the meaning of freedom? And what are the duties and obligations of citizens? They need to learn that. And so I do hope that if we're going to teach people how to vote and to win elections, which is great, we also teach them the reason why they're voting and why they're winning an election and what the future holds, that we will earnestly contend for that which was once delivered to us. Well, we've got an interesting gentleman coming up, intriguing author.
Absolutely. I love every book he's written. Well, coming up, Messianic Rabbi Jonathan Cahn joins us live. He's the best-selling author of The Harbinger, and he shares his prophetic update on the current state of America. Plus, he's going to unravel deep secrets of the Bible from his new book, Book of Mysteries, after this.
To see this week's top on-demand videos, go to cbn.com.
Well, our next guest is a biblical scholar and a real prophet. I was fascinated several years ago when he began to unfold what is called the Harbinger. And he talked about the fulfillment of prophecy and how it had been brought forth in exquisite detail. That book sold over 1 million copies. It was very popular. And then he came up with another one called The Mystery of the Shemitah, and people have looked and they've seen the flux of economic events taking place in our world that tracks the Jewish calendar. And now, in 2015, Rabbi Jonathan Cahn gave a prophetic warning to America regarding Baal, a Baal. A year later, that word has become a reality. Take a look at this.
Messianic Rabbi Jonathan Cahn is known for his best-selling novel, The Harbinger. He compared the United States to the destruction of ancient Israel. His teachings, which are known for revealing the deep mysteries of God's Word, are broadcast around the world. In his devotional, The Book of Mysteries, Jonathan takes you on a one-year journey to mountaintops, caverns, and the oil-lit chambers of scrolls to uncover secrets that he says will change your life.
Well, it's a pleasure to welcome back a dear friend of the 700 Club, Jonathan Cahn. Jonathan, God bless you.
God bless you, Pat.
Glad to see you.
Blessing to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What is this Baal thing? Or is it Baal?
Yeah. Well, the template of the Harbinger is that Israel is warned and gets the signs, but they get worse, and they progress until, well, we're watching, I shared about how these things have manifested in America. Well, we're also going on this path as a culture. We're defying God. Well, in the last days of ancient Israel, when the Harbingers were happening, they were worshiping the god Baal, or Baal. And it's the god they lifted up their children in sacrifices. They called evil good. They hunted down the righteous, Elijah. And so could the sign of Baal also manifest in America, since the Harbingers are a sign of a nation that has once known God but has fallen away? Well, in the last month, what's happened, Pat, it has manifested in New York City.
What?
They erected the Arch of Baal, the arch that the worshipers of Baal went through to worship Baal in Palmyra, Syria. They put it up on American soil. I was there. The woman who spoke said, "We're doing this as an act of defiance." This is a sign of a nation that has turned from God, once knew God.
Is that it? I'm
That's it. That's it.
And she said it's an act of defiance.
We're doing this as an act of defiance. This is Baal. I mean, of all things, identifying the nation that is in apostasy from God. And it actually says the arch of the temple of Baal right there. And, you know, we watch this. And the weird thing was, I know that about a year and a half ago, I was in Capitol Hill, and it was the day after the Supreme Court was hearing the case on marriage. And I was led to give a warning. And I'm saying, and the Lord said, Elijah said that, you know, we're standing between Baal and God. Choose you this day.
Right.
And it looks like it's Baal. That's the scary thing.
Well, Elijah killed about 500 of them.
We're not going to do that.
Well, maybe. He said, you know, but if the Lord be God, let him be God.
Yes.
And God answered his prayer. He said, oh, God, show these people that I've done this at your word, and suddenly the fire from heaven fell.
Yes.
Do you think we're going to see something like that?
I hope for it, because that's the only hope I see. I mean, the only hope I see is revival. That's it. I mean, no matter what happens in the political realm, we got to pray for revival. That's it.
Well, to talk about Baal, you know, I have studied this name that the Muslims use, you know, of their God. They call him Allah. I thought it was Hubal, the moon god of Mecca. But you look up the books, and they say, well, it's a derivation of Baal. That they've taken from the Phoenician god. That's where they get this god they serve.
Yeah, well, one of the things is that this was taken. This arch is a reproduction of what was in Syria, and actually, and the thing is, and in the Harbinger, when you remember, Pat, when they're rebuilding, when ancient Israel was rebuilding, they're rebuilding what the Assyrians destroyed. Well, it was ISIS, who are the modern day descendants of Assyria, who destroyed the arch of Baal. So now we're actually rebuilding exactly what happened, what the Assyrians destroyed. I mean, it's eerie, and it's actually happening. Yeah.
Where is it placed in New York?
It was placed in City Hall, and actually, I'll tell you, I was going to share this, but we said, okay, if the arch is here, where's the Temple of Baal? So we charted it out where it would have been in New York City. It led us exactly to ground zero.
Come on.
Yes, I have that. I have the map, and it led us exactly to ground zero. Yes.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's talk about this book of mysteries. Tell us about, this is kind of a day-to-day devotional about these. There's a fictional character who leads us through this. Tell us what it's about.
If the Harbinger is the opening up of a mystery, the Book of Mysteries is the opening up of hundreds of mysteries, and from mysteries of heaven, mysteries of the end times, mysteries of the rabbis, and it is revealed in the way that, as with the Harbinger, a man goes into the desert, a man called the teacher takes him on this one-year journey, and every day on the mountaintops and caves, he opens up a mystery of God. So the reader is taken into that journey, and so every day you're seeing another mystery. So you can read it right through, but it's also could be done as a devotional. But every day there's a mystery, and not just that, but not just to be blown away, but to take it and apply it to your life.
Let's take a few of the mysteries. Okay. You got one, the mystery of God's name.
Yes.
Start with that.
Well, in this, the teacher says to the disciple, you know, do you know the name of God? And the disciple says, I don't know. He says, you say it all the time. Every time, if I say I'm Jonathan, you say I'm Pat. Before you say it, you must say the name of God. I am Jonathan. I am Pat. Before you can speak about ourselves, we have to put God's name when we talk about ourselves, because our existence comes from His existence. Even if I say I'm sad, well, it's I am is with me. If I say I am alone, well, I am is with me when I say that. Even if I say I'm in sin, I am. You know, this is Jesus. I am becomes one with our sin. So there's so much here, but just that, you know. And the thing is that one of the secrets is, you know, we live for God. We're to live to God. But one of the mysteries is to live from God, that every moment, because our existence, every moment is from God. And so to take it, to live in His living, to love from His loving, to live from I am. We're all saying it.
Well, now, the next one is the Shemitah.
Okay.
You wrote a book about that mystery.
About the Shemitah, but this is the mystery of the Smicha. A little different.
Different. Oh, I'm sorry. Shemitah.
It's a little different. There's so much that people... Here's the thing, that in order for the sacrifice to be lifted up, they had to perform something called the Smicha. The sacrifice had to be taken to the priest. The priest would have to lay their palms on the head of the sacrifice, called the Smicha, become one with it, confess their sins on top of the sacrifice, then it could be offered up. If Messiah, Jesus, is the sin offering, which He is, could this have happened? Well, yes. He was taken to the priest. The Sanhedrin were the priests. And what do they do? The Bible says, and it says that the palms have to touch. Well, it says that they buffeted him. They touched his head. They touched his face. The Greek says they put it was the palms of their hands when they beat him. That's the smicha. And they had to confess the sin over him. Well, the high priest said he is guilty of blasphemy. That wasn't his sin. It says that's their sin. They're confessing it over blasphemy, which is the sin of all of us, blasphemy. And so, Pat, I mean, so much true is, even if people never heard of it, when you get saved, you're performing the smicha. You're saying, Jesus, you died for my sins.
Most people thought they just slapped him like, the slap, but it wasn't a slap.
They did.
But it was
they did. But it literally says they buffeted him with the palms of their hands in the Greek. Literally, that's the smicha. The smicha. It's amazing. And we're actually performing it, and it's to take your life and touch him with it, and that's when you get changed.
Another mystery. This is ladies and gentlemen, this is a fabulous thing you can go through here, but the next one is the bride and groom.
Oh, I love this. And this is the Hebrew wedding, and this takes place where the teacher shows them their tent desert dwellers, and they're living like the Bible times. So throughout the book, you have a stream of mystery where they're actually seeing a wedding take place. It concludes at the end. Here's the thing. In the time of the Bible, the wedding went like this. For there to be a marriage, the bridegroom had to make a journey from the house of the bridegroom to the house of the bride. Had to do it. And there he would pledge himself, consecrate his life, offer a gift called the mohar to set her free. If she said yes, they were considered married. But then he had to leave her. They were separated for over a year. She'd prepare for the wedding. She'd prepare to leave her house. He'd prepare a home for her. And then comes the big wedding day. He's dressed as a king with a crown. He comes with torches and men and a great procession. Second journey comes to, this time he comes to take her home. So this time they're lifted up. They see each other face to face. They're lifted up on a sedan chair, carried in a great procession, where finally she sees the house of the bridegroom that has been prepared for her. They enter in, they become one. Well, the mystery is this. God is the bridegroom, we are the bride. According to the mystery, he has to make a journey. 2,000 years ago, the bridegroom God makes the journey from the house of the bridegroom to the house of the bride, to earth. He comes to our life. He offers up the gift, which is his life. He has to leave. He says, I have to go back. They have to go back. Then it says, I'm preparing a place for you. So he's preparing a place now. We're supposed to be preparing ourselves to get ready. And whether we live to that day when he comes or when we leave this life, he's going to take us home.
They were already married, though, when they confessed to each other.
Well, the moment they are considered husband and wife, that's right, even though they don't see each other until that. And then finally it's consummated when he comes again dressed as a king. He comes in glory, and we're going to see that. And finally we will see the house that's prepared for us, and finally we'll be home. It's so awesome.
And that's the mystery of the second coming of Jesus Christ.
Yeah, the whole Bible is that mystery.
All right, let's try it. No, this is fantastic. How long did it take you to come up with these things? This is fantastic.
I think it's been like 30 years of coming up with it. But I wrote it at night, like from 12 o'clock to 6 o'clock in the morning this year. I just said, I just want to strengthen God's people because I believe we have to be strong for the day's end. Eighth day. One of the most mysterious days of the Bible, and that is God says at the very end of this sacred year, it's called the 8th day. What's the 8th day? No, even the rabbis don't know what this is. Well, if the 7th day is the day of the end, the 8th day is what happens beyond the end. Okay. So when you look at the end of the Bible, Revelation, you see 7, 7, 7 trumpets, everything's ending. Then the last 2 chapters are the 8th day. It's the day of eternity. Jesus, and the day that breaks the bounds. Jesus, he rose not just on Sunday, first day of the week. He rose on the 8th day of the week. It's the day that breaks the barriers. And we worship on Sunday, many believers. And so that we are children of the 8th day. There's a way to actually enter the day of eternity even now, heaven now.
Yeah. Jonathan, this is fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, this book, where can they get it? Is it available?
It's everywhere. Book of Mysteries everywhere, from online, Amazon to Walmart, everywhere. It looks like one of the books that the teacher shows, these ancient books that he shows.
Here it is, ladies and gentlemen, the Book of Mysteries. Isn't this fascinating? Every day there's another unfolding of the mysteries of God. It'll enrich your spiritual life. I just love your writing, brother. God bless you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. You're such a blessing. And I'm reminding you, I came to the Lord, I was watching the 700 Club. Oh, thank you.
You're a trophy that I'm proud to claim. God bless you. Rabbi Cahn. Ladies and gentlemen, the Book of Mysteries. Terry.
Well, you can hear more about the Book of Mysteries on our Facebook page. All you have to do is log on to facebook.com/700club to find a web-exclusive interview with Jonathan Cahn. And now, still ahead, we're planning to bring it on. Jennifer says, I enjoy drinking a glass of red wine occasionally. Is this wrong? Stay tuned for Pat's answer. It's coming up.
And welcome back to the 700 Club. One of the largest evangelical college ministries in the U.S. has asked any staff member who supports same-sex marriage to quit. InterVarsity Christian Fellowship recently made the announcement after publishing a position paper that says sex should be reserved for marriage. Employees are expected to, quote, believe and behave, unquote, with that stand. and those who disagree are required to leave within 2 weeks. CBN Asia is bringing a new show to children nationwide in the Philippines. They team with the National Council for Children's Television to develop Oyeyi, which means lullaby. The program aims to cultivate, promote, and rekindle lessons such as love for family and others. It also embraces an appreciation for culture and the arts, along with conversation of the environment and more responsible approach when it comes to using technology, social media, disaster preparedness, and much more. Remember, you can learn more about what CBN is doing around the world by simply going to cbn.com/international. Pat and Terry are back with more of the 700 Club. It's coming up right after this.
Well, at CBN, we're much more than just a TV show. We help people all around the world start new lives, including one desperate mom in Georgia who had to flee her abusive husband. Take a look.
43-year-old Irma lived with an abusive husband for 13 years. Her worst memories are not of the violence she endured, but of the suffering of her 3 children.
It was like death for me when he would beat our small children. When my Tamara was only 2 years old, I heard her cries as he beat her. I rushed in to save her, and then he beat me.
Irma's greatest fear was that one day her husband would kill them all. So after years of abuse, she left him and took all her children.
I explained that I wouldn't have proper house, food, or money. They all said, yes, we will starve rather than stay here.
As a single mother with 3 children, Irma received $45 a month in government support. It was only enough for 2 weeks of food.
They were starving together with me. They got sick too and almost died because we had no medicine. I said to myself, Irma, you have to do something.
Irma had knitting and sewing skills, so she began to take yarn from existing clothing to make new ones to sell. But with no money for supplies, she could only knit and sell a few items.
I began to pray to God, please provide me with yarn and fabric so that I can make more money to feed my family.
A church that partners with CBN's Orphans Promise heard about Irma and her children. We brought food and a special invitation to the Orphans Promise Training Center hosted by the church.
I enjoy being in the center. I have many friends there.
The kids always come home full from there. They say, Mom, we have already eaten.
But we wanted to do more to help Irma, so we bought her a sewing machine and all the supplies she needs to start a small business.
It is a joyful day for me. I will be able to sew bedding and towels and knit sweaters and hats with the help of your gifts.
I am very happy. Please accept a very big thank you from all of us.
My kids no longer go hungry. Everything is fine with us now. Thank you so much for that.
God says he has a special place in his heart for widows and orphans. Irma took her children and left a very abusive situation that really would have destroyed them all. I believe that God's heart is bent toward women and children who are going through things like this. You allowed us to come right into the midst of their poverty, their need, their suffering, not just provide an opportunity for her to earn money, not just provide a place for them to go and watch Superbook and have food to eat. You changed their lives with the message of the gospel. We want to say thank you, 700 Club members. Orphans Promise is out to touch the lives of orphans and vulnerable children just like Irma's, and so thank you for helping us stand with that. And we say when you join the 700 Club, we've got something special for you. Not only will you be touching lives like you just saw, but you'll be receiving the Gospel of John. This is something Pat's done just for 700 Club members. It's 2 CDs with the Gospel of John recorded onto it as he went into one of our sound studios here, and it was done expressly with you in mind. So call today. Our number's toll free. It's 1-800-700-7000. It's 65 cents a day, $20 a month. That makes you a 700 Club member, and we'll get the Gospel of John out to you right away to say thank you for your kindness and your generosity. Pat?
Okay, well, it's time to take your email questions. You know, I like that. They had that format last night. taking questions, I would have been right, like, you know.
You'd have been in hog heaven.
Brer Rabbit, the briar patch or whatever. I mean, I would have been.
Are we going to come? We're going to take a commercial break here. No peeking at these before we come back. We'll be back right after this.
Okay.
Well, this is the final week of our Pray for America campaign. If you'd like to join us in that, call our toll-free number. It's 1-800-700-7000, or you can log on to prayforamerica.com. And if you'd like one of our prayer lapel pins, they're available for $10, $5 for each additional pin. I plan to wear mine on the way to the poll. You can order yours today by calling our number. Again, it's 1-800-700-7000, or you can log on to prayforamerica.com. I think it's a beautiful pin and kind of expresses something we all need to be doing right now. I want to mention also that it's time for your email questions, but before we bring it on, I want to remind you to visit our Facebook page, because you're going to find that web-exclusive interview there with today's guest, Jonathan Cahn. I know you all want to hear more about what he has to say, so if you'd like to watch that, just go to facebook.com/700 Club. Now, let's bring it on. Are you ready?
Waiting for so eagerly.
This is Jennifer, who says, I have received conflicting messages about this topic, and I wanted to know your opinion on it. I enjoy drinking a glass of red wine occasionally, maybe one day a week, and never more than 2 glasses. I know the Bible references drunkenness, which is never the case with me. I do not get intoxicated or impaired in any way. I really enjoy the taste of red wine, plus it has some health benefits. Is this wrong? Is this a sin?
Absolutely not. Jesus, after all, turned water into wine.
The best wine.
And the best, absolutely, the best wine. And the Bible says that God blesses people, and he gives wine to gladden the heart of man and oil to make his face shine. So, but it also says wine is a mocker and strong drink is raging. You can drink a bottle of wine and get drunk, and you know, it's a mocker. You turn into a blithering idiot. A glass of wine, it has therapeutic value, frankly, and it's got resveratrol and stuff like that, which is good for your heart. Okay,
this is a viewer who says, Dear Pat, do you know what the original language was before God confused the language of men in Genesis 11:7? And do you have an idea of what language we'll be speaking in heaven? Will speaking in tongues be needed?
I don't think so. You know, whether they be tongues, they'll cease, the Bible says. Yeah. I don't think that, I tell you what, when we're in heaven, we're spirits. We don't need language. We communicate by thought. You know, and the thought can communicate exactly what you're thinking, what you want to have done, and so forth. So I'm not even sure we need any kind of language. But it'll be, Paul says, though I speak with the tongues of men and of angels, there's angelic speech apparently, and it'll be some form of that. The original language, I don't have any idea, but I think it was probably some variation of Hebrew or the Semitic languages that they were speaking in Babylon in those days. We started in Ur of Chaldees, and so in that area they were coming up with the cuneiform type of writing and language. But I don't really know. All I know is that they could all understand what they were saying.
Yeah. This is Graciela, who says, I have a term life insurance policy that's about to end because I'll be turning 65 years old. They told me I could purchase a whole life insurance policy, but they're dragging their feet on sending me the information. I was thinking of investing the premium I would pay on this new policy, which is $49 a month, in purchasing gold instead. Is this a smart move, and how do I go about doing this?
All right. First of all, once your obligations are finished, you don't have any children to take care of, you don't have anybody left, and you got enough money to pay for your funeral, you're home free, so you don't need insurance for anything. What do you need insurance for? Now, you may want health insurance, but you don't need any life insurance. And whole life is the biggest ripoff that has been perpetrated on unsuspecting people. So I think you say, what are you going to do? Well, would gold be good? I mean, it's a question of, you want to invest, it's $49 a month. Do you want to put it in gold? Wouldn't be the worst thing in the world, but it's a little hard to, even a share of the Well, the GLD is the symbol. I'm not sure you can get for $49. But there are many stocks. You need to open a brokerage account or some kind of an account where you can deal stocks. And I think I'm a great believer in dividend-paying stocks. So but gold, hey, gold, silver, whatever.
That's what you would do.
But it's sure better than buying a whole life policy at your age when you don't need it. We leave with you with today's Power Minute from Proverbs 3. Fear the Lord and depart from evil. It will be health to your flesh and strengthen your bones. That's good, isn't it?
It's a good word.
Hey, tomorrow we've got best-selling author and Regent alumnus Charles Martin. He's joined us to talk about his newest novel and the major motion picture based on one of his books. So for Terry and all of us, this is Pat Robertson. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.